So Star Wars The Bad Batch is now released on Disney+, but people don't know whether or not they should watch it or they should not watch it. Here's a quick answer for that. It's a part of the Star Wars universe, and if you want to know more about the Star Wars lore, then yes, you should watch it. But if this is someone who has never seen Star Wars in their entire life and they don't know where to begin, this is the list that I personally think that you should follow, because this, in my opinion, is the most knowledgeable, probably the most fun, and the ones where you get the most emotional, heartfelt. And for those that have seen Star Wars, this is where you can able to see the timeline of Star Wars at its best ability. There will be timestamps down in the description box below in case you want to skip to certain parts of the video that are a lot more interesting to you. And if you like seeing videos like this and you want to see different videos that are exactly like this, please click that subscribe button, because it really does help out my YouTube channel and encourages me to create more content like this. Now, the way this video is going to work is that I've analyzed every single Star Wars cartoon show and live action film and live action shows and compiled all of them together into 5 different brackets. I'm not including any of the video games or the books that were released that were also being accounted for within the Star Wars universe, because I didn't necessarily read any of the books, nor did I play any of the video games. So if you guys are actually anticipating or were wanting to see something like that within this timeline, I'm sorry, but maybe next time when I do actually play the games and read the books, I'll probably do another video recreating that and including those within this timeline. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started talking about how you can watch the Star Wars movies, shows, and the cartoon shows all in chronological order. The first thing that you need to watch within the Star Wars universe is The Phantom Menace, and after that is Attack of the Clones, and right after that, I recommend you to watch the cartoon show Clone Wars Seasons 1 and 2. This is the beginning of the Anakin Skywalker story, and Anakin Skywalker is one of the big essential characters that starts up the engagement that you would have in the Star Wars universe. Now, these two movies, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, are pretty much the weak links within the Star Wars universe. People usually rank these at the bottom of their list of what movies they would consider to be the best or the worst of the Star Wars franchise. And seasons 1 through 2 of Clone Wars are not necessarily the best seasons within that show, but these are essential to start off if you want to know what happens within the very beginning of Anakin Skywalker and the friends and acquaintances that he makes along the way, which features other important characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Master Yoda, and also other characters that are important for Anakin Skywalker but aren't necessarily featured within future Star Wars content. This is the next bracket that I'm telling you guys. What you should watch next is seasons 3 through 7, but in season 7, you need to stop at episode 9 and then go watch the movie Revenge of the Sith, and then come back to Clone Wars and watch episodes 10, 11, and 12. This is a bigger shift between the last bracket and this one, because everything that goes down in terms of story and character development, it's so much more tragic and it's so engaging. Clone Wars does have another side story that would probably be more interesting to you guys, that is related to a character that did die, or what was thought to be killed off in The Phantom Menace, and returns in Clone Wars. His story becomes a lot more quintessential throughout the future of the Star Wars universe, and some people would probably find that story to be a lot more overpowered than the Anakin Skywalker story, because the story in that one has more interesting value than what's going on with Anakin Skywalker. But if you watch seasons 5 through 7, the Anakin Skywalker story becomes a lot more important and a lot better and more emotional when you stop at episode 9 in season 7 and then come back and watch Revenge of the Sith. The reason why I decided to stop episode 9 in season 7 is because there's something that happens in Revenge of the Sith that we didn't necessarily see in Clone Wars that's a lot more prominent to Anakin Skywalker's character. The relationship between him and Emperor Palpatine is a lot more shown in Revenge of the Sith than it was in Clone Wars. But if you stop at episode 9, go back to Revenge of the Sith, and then go back to Clone Wars, that entire relationship between Anakin Skywalker and all of the personal relationships that he has made within this timeline, the weight and depth of the understanding of this character becomes a lot more emotionally tragic when you watch it this way. Onward to the next bracket, right after watching Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 10, 11, and 12, you have to go ahead and watch the brand new series called The Bad Batch, and then afterwards, Solo: A Star Wars Story, Star Wars Rebels Seasons 1 through 4, and then Rogue One. Now within this bracket, you have the side character stories that are going on that aren't necessarily related to Anakin Skywalker's story or anything that's related to the Luke Skywalker story. There's definitely stories that come back with other side characters, especially with what happens in Star Wars Rebels, but they aren't the primary focus within this bracket. The Bad Batch talks about the transition of what happens afterwards with all of the downward things that happen in Clone Wars. And the Bad Batch is the transition of what they used to do back in the past is now changing and changing onward to the point where everything is totally different to them, and they're trying to figure out what is their sole purpose in the near future. It also features future characters that you'll be able to see in Star Wars Rebels who are a lot more younger now, but will become a lot more essential and important within the show Star Wars Rebels. And seeing the idea of how these people react to these characters and how it transitions towards their development within the future show, it makes the characters a lot more fascinating when you begin to watch them within their own storyline. Solo: A Star Wars Story, again, is the weak link within this bracket. It's not necessarily an important movie to watch. It's just that you see the change that's happening within all of the stuff that went down within Clone Wars. And the other thing is that there's a post-credit scene at the very end that explains how one character is advancing their story, but there's still like a huge gap in the middle between what they're doing right then and there in Solo: A Star Wars Story and Star Wars Rebels. But again, in terms of continuity, this is the best spot of where to watch it. You don't have to watch Solo: A Star Wars Story, but if you want to, this is the best place to put it at. And Star Wars Rebels is where you don't necessarily need anything else in between the timeline. This entire show is doing its own thing. It brings in characters from the past that are in this one. There are characters that were featured in other shows such as The Bad Batch that are now being prominent within this one. A huge story that was featured in Clone Wars is now being advanced in Rebels. This entire show is doing its own thing that makes the show very engaging and really cool. There isn't really any episodes or any seasons that you need to stop in between and then go back and watch another episode in order for you to really enjoy it. And the last one in this bracket is Rogue One. Now, Rogue One, in terms of different characters that we haven't necessarily known or seen before, there is one character that we have seen throughout the animated series that is shown in this one, and it's the end of his journey in this movie. And in terms of what's going on with a big grand plan of Anakin Skywalker's story, it's very important to watch the end of this episode because it transitions the idea of how Episode 4, Star Wars: A New Hope, actually begun. Because if you watch this one and then watch the next bracket, it makes the story all the more fun and enjoyable to watch. And that, of course, leads into the next bracket, which is the OG Star Wars trilogy: A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. But also included in this bracket, I say after Return of the Jedi, watch Mandalorian Seasons 1 through 2. Everything that has been built up to this moment, all of the content that you have witnessed from Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, and even Star Wars Rebels, it all leads into a grand epic of a trilogy that's led off to something that's even more important when you look at Luke Skywalker's story. It's transitioning over from Anakin Skywalker's story to Luke Skywalker's story. Luke Skywalker is now the important character to watch within this one, even though you have watched a lot of what's going on within Anakin's storyline. And when watching A New Hope, it's the perfect transition when leading over towards a character that you used to know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that was from the past content, and then watching him in here, he's so much more important because he's the one that leads in the transition over from Anakin to Luke. And then when you watch Empire Strikes Back, the importance of Master Yoda comes into play when you see him help training Luke Skywalker to become a Master Jedi. Now, the reason why I say The Mandalorian comes right after Return of the Jedi is because when in Return of the Jedi, the people and the characters who were in the past content from the 3 brackets that I've shown, they've shown that there is a great and happy ending at the end of Return of the Jedi. And because of that, characters that were a part of the villains, who were only doing it just for a job, were left on their own, and you're getting to see the side of those characters and how they're doing once the Empire is gone. And this is basically their own storyline. There isn't much other continuity here, and this show can also be counted as a sidekick character show as well. And it's so much fun to watch. And now, of course, you got the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and that is Star Wars The Force Awakens, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Again, not necessarily a great trilogy to end off with, considering that it didn't necessarily make a lot of Star Wars fans happy. But again, it is a part of the Star Wars universe, it is canon, and if you do want to know what happens after Return of the Jedi, this is more content of what's going on. It's the transition of all of the prominent characters that were in the OG Star Wars trilogy and how they moved on and transition more brand new characters that are within the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Now, I believe that the Star Wars sequel trilogy can actually be fixed. If the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels were meant to fix the Star Wars prequel trilogy, then we can actually create content that can be able to fix the Star Wars sequel trilogy, whether it's in video games, books, or maybe within a cartoon show. I believe that this sequel trilogy can be fixed, and we can count them within the Star Wars universe. There is potential content within the prequel trilogy that does make it good enough to watch. It's just that there are specific choices within writing characters and terms of writing a good story that need to be fixed. And if you created a show that's able to fix the type of stories that they were able to create, then I think that there is some redemption when creating this sequel trilogy. If we could do that for Cobra Kai and how they did justice to Karate Kid 2 and 3, which were said to not be good sequels at all, then I think we can be able to do it with this one. And there you go, guys. This, in my opinion, is the best way you could be able to watch the Star Wars universe if you want to introduce somebody to these characters, or if you have already seen the Star Wars universe and you want to see a fun way to watch it in chronological order. And maybe this list isn't necessarily the best list. There's probably another list that you could probably watch that's a lot more quintessential and would work a lot better for you. My list isn't the correct list, but it's a list that I would personally find to be the most fun. But how would you put the Star Wars universe in chronological order? Or what other franchise would you like to see me put in chronological order? Put your thoughts down in the comment section below and let's have a conversation about it. And like this video if you agree with what I say, or dislike this video if you disagree with what I say. I don't mind the dislikes. So that is it I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.